Well, it is a little after 4 p.m. local time here in Iran. This explosion took place within the past 60 minutes, maybe 90 minutes. Very important at this point, there is no indication that this explosion was a result of a U.S. strike or a foreign attack. Officials say the explosion is under investigation and the cause is unknown. Obviously, Iran has been on edge today with all the threats coming from Washington, all the buildup of the U.S. Fleet in the region, on edge about a possible attack against Iran. So a lot of people very anxious about this report, anxious to see if this is an attack. But again, no indications at this point that this is an attack. Here's what we do know, very few details. According to state TV, this was an explosion at an 8-story residential building in Bandar Abbas. The second and third floors of this building were destroyed, according to state media, along with some cars and some nearby shops. 8 people were injured. I spoke to someone by phone in Bandar Abbas. This person said he didn't hear an explosion, and everything seems to be going normally over there. According to state media, rescuers are still on the scene. Bandar Abbas is in a significant location. It's a major port city that sits right on the Straits of Hormuz. That's where 20% of the world's oil supply flows through, and a very vital location for the global energy flow. There's also a naval base there, one that's been there since prior to the revolution. This naval base has been there since 1977. Noteworthy that Iranian naval forces are scheduled to do naval exercises in the coming days in the region in response to the U.S. Forces building up there nearby. The naval exercises are scheduled to take place in the Persian Gulf near the Strait of Hormuz, and of course right nearby in the Arabian Sea, you have the U.S. naval fleet that's building up.
Yeah, and Reza, as you're speaking to us, we're looking at the images there in Bandar Abbas at that destruction of that 8-story residential building you were describing. We also see the rubble on the streets and on some of the cars down below. And just a reminder of viewers, as Reza was saying, we cannot confirm if there's any link to the ongoing geopolitical tensions between Iran and the West, notably the United States. Reza, given those geopolitical tensions, though, talk to us about what the mood is like in Iran.
The mood is tense. There's a sense of dread, foreboding, and it's palpable. I was out in the streets today. People are doing their best to move on with their lives, but they're worried, they're nervous. They see the headlines, they see the news, they see the threats coming from Washington, they see the rhetoric responding by military and Iranian officials. They're worried that an attack is taking place, and all indications are that the United States has everything in place for an attack against Iran. They have a naval fleet in the region, they have bolstered their air forces, their air defense, the radar system, mobilized troops, and many people here in Iran are waiting to see if U.S. President Donald Trump is going to move forward with an attack or if he's going to wait. So people are nervous, they're worried. This is not a good time here in Iran, and we should point out that a lot of people are deciding to leave Tehran. Of course, that's what happened in June during the 12-day war when Israel attacked. You saw a lot of people leave to the outskirts of Tehran and beyond to feel a little safer.
Yeah, earlier this Saturday we heard from the army chief in Iran. He was warning the United States and Israel against an attack. He said Iranian forces are on high alert. In the run-up to these Iranian military drills this weekend, is there a feeling that there's still room for talks or for diplomacy? Because we're hearing so many threats from both sides.
Well, based on our observations, the threats have initiated from Washington, and Iran is simply responding. Iran says they are open to talks, open to negotiations, but according to officials here, they don't believe at this point that the environment is one that's appropriate to talk. They say they're willing to talk, but it has to be one where there have been no threats, where there are no threats, and there's mutual respect. And we certainly haven't seen that kind of environment. So at this point, a lot of Iranians are waiting to see what U.S. President Donald Trump is going to decide. And there's reports out of Washington that he's talked to allies in the region, saying that that an attack could happen in the coming days, but uncertain times. No one knows what he's going to decide, and whether regional allies here can push him for mediation and some sort of diplomacy to avert war.
Yeah, and when we look at this developing story out of the port city, the fact that we're coming up on, I think we're about the 1 hour mark since the reports dropped here in the newsroom about the explosion, in which state media says unknown origin. At this point, as we're nearing 1 hour and 1 hour and a half and get towards 2 hours, is it odd we don't have more details at this point?
I don't think it's odd. First of all, it's early. It takes time to sort out the details and figure out exactly what happened. And we remind you that this is Iran. This is a very sensitive time. So even if there are details as to what happened, and if it turns out that this was a target of an attack, it is very likely that military officials are going to keep those details under wraps. And we should point out, during the 12-day war, there were residential buildings where you had high-ranking military officials living that were struck, and hundreds of civilians were killed, as were these military officials. So it is certainly possible that this was a targeted attack, but it's so important to remind our viewers that at this point, we don't have any more information other than this was a building, an explosion in an 8-story residential building in Bandar Abbas. 2 of the floors, the second and third floor, were destroyed. No indication that this was attacked. We're waiting to see what exactly happened.